We're starting again? Okay. The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or another print disability that makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org. Your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service now presents a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo News for today, Tuesday, last day of June, June 30th. Your readers today are the elves, Lori and
Lita.
Oops, sorry.
Hey.
Sorry about that. Taking your place. You can say my name next time.
Okay, Lori. No.
Lori and Lita. Okay. The weather, no rain. I don't see anything. I don't see that word. Breezy and humid today with some sun, high of 89. Mostly clear tonight with a low 75. Sunny to partly cloudy tomorrow. Dangerous heat though. Seek time in the shade and stay hydrated. Sunscreen probably is a good idea too. High of 88. Thursday is mostly sunny with a high of 91. Friday, a gusty thunderstorm, high of 88. And on Saturday, the 4th of July, they're saying a gusty thunderstorm, but humid and a high of 84.
That's toasty.
If it's not toasty enough, go to Ulysses, Kansas, 104 degrees. And if you want to be cooler, 27 in Bridgeport, California. They don't tell us what's happening in the pollen today, but I can tell you I sneezed a lot this morning. The sun sets tonight at 8:58 p.m., and I'm not going to do the trivia, but precipitation-wise, it's interesting. No inches on Monday, but Buffalo's year-to-date is 26.28 inches, and they list Jamestown, Rochester, Syracuse, Binghamton, Albany, Cleveland, Toronto, and Pittsburgh, and they all have no more than 23 inches. So we are leading the pack in rain this year.
Yes, we are.
Oh, I'm sorry, I brought up rain.
I knew you couldn't stay away.
On to you, Lita.
Okay, so theft on a staggering scale. A woman gets longest prison term for pandemic fraud in Western New York. An Oklahoma woman who had a role in filing 153 fraudulent applications for pandemic aid was sentenced Monday to 8 years in federal prison, the stiffest sentence yet among those convicted in Buffalo of stealing from the Paycheck Protection Program. Amanda J. Gloria, 49, of Altus, Oklahoma, joined a conspiracy stretching across the nation that saw more than $32 million plundered from the federal program designed to help businesses during the pandemic. This is theft on a staggering scale, Assistant U.S. Attorney Charles Crewley said during her sentencing hearing. I don't even know where to begin, Senior U.S. District Judge Richard Arcara said. The fraud here was of such a high magnitude, it's one of the largest fraud cases I've seen in my career. The judge noted her remorse and cooperation in helping the government prosecute other offenders and sentencing her to the lower end of the sentencing guidelines, which called for a sentence ranging of 8 to 10 years. Gloria appeared in the U.S. District Court with the highest criminal offense level score before reductions for her cooperation and acceptance of responsibility under the government's sentencing guidelines of any pandemic fraud offender sentenced in Buffalo thus far. The financial loss and number of victims, among other factors, shaped her high score. Gloria and her co-conspirators fraudulently applied for more than $43 million in PPP funds and obtained more than $32 million, of which she personally received approximately $1.7 million for her role in the scheme, according to the attorney's office. Her defense lawyer called her a cog in the fraudulent machine. Brottingham acknowledged the significant fraud amount as he described her role in the conspiracy as a helper, an assistant, an underling in a sentencing memo. In court, he described her as a facilitator of the fraud that occurred here as he asked the judge to sentence her to 5 years in prison. She went along with the main conspirators, Brottingham said. She was not the person who initiated the scheme, but prepared documents at the request of her co-conspirators and also fraudulently applied for loans. Brottingham noticed her significant cooperation with prosecutors here and other parts of the country. She testified in a co-conspirators trial in Idaho, and she prepared to testify at a Buffalo trial before her co-defendant entered into a plea agreement. Gloria assisted Brittany Herbert and Brandy Williams in the scheme, both of whom have pled guilty in Buffalo and are awaiting sentencing, along with a long list of other people who applied for loans. Her fraudulent applications included one totaling $420,000 for her own inactive company, Wild West Trucking. In the loan application, she falsified or aided and assisted with falsifying various information, including the number of employees, payroll expenses and documentation, and federal tax filings. I do understand it was wrong, and I've admitted my guilt, Gloria told the judge. I don't have any excuses. When she helped prepare the fraudulent applications, Gloria was under financial pressure because of a marriage heading rapidly for divorce, Rottingam said in his sentencing memo. Now, however, Ms. Gloria is living independently and has supportive family relationships which have allowed her to be stable during the dependency of her case. She is no longer under the financial pressures created by her failing marriage. She is involved in her church and community and is a stable and productive individual. Of the 10 offenders who have been sentenced for PPP fraud in Buffalo, 7 received prison sentences. The average sentence length was slightly longer than 2 years. Gloria pleaded guilty in 2022 to conspiracy to commit bank fraud and engage in monetary transactions with criminally derived proceeds. She has not made any restitution, but faces a court order to do so.
Wow. And signs point to the royal wedding of Swift and Kelce this week. Los Angeles Taylor Swift may enter her marriage era this week. The record-setting pop singer and her fiancé, National Football League player Travis Kelce, are widely expected to marry this week. They have made no official announcement, and Reuters could not confirm a date or a location, though the New York Times reported that city permits and other clues point toward a Manhattan wedding late in the week. Even without confirmation, excitement is building for one of the most anticipated celebrity weddings of the century. It is truly our royal wedding, said Elena Fishman, style and shopping director for New York Post's Page 6, which has extensively covered Swift's career and love life. Everybody's just buzzing. The pair's engagement last August followed a public love story that enchanted fans who had followed Swift from her teen years through several heartbreaks that she documented in her music. Cameras caught Swift cheering on Kelce, one of the NFL's top tight ends, at Kansas City Chiefs games, and followed him as he jetted around the world to her concerts. Both were at the top of their games when they started dating 3 years ago. The 14-time Grammy winner was in the middle of her catalog-spanning Eras tour, the highest-grossing concert tour ever, and Kelce won his 3rd Super Bowl as Swift beamed from the stands. He has set several NFL records, including 178 postseason catches, and co-hosts a popular podcast called New Heights with his brother, retired NFL star Jason Kelce. The wedding will be the union of 2 of the most powerful, beloved, influential people in the world, Fishman said. We're talking about the world's preeminent pop star marrying arguably the greatest tight end in NFL history. The singer's fans, known as Swifties, have watched her ups and downs for 2 decades. It kind of feels like we've been on this journey with her, said Olivia Levin, author of The Story of Us, How the Taylor Swift Fandom Changed Our Lives. It's so cool to see someone who's gone through so much in relationships and in life, and then finally gets their happy fairy tale ending, Levin said, adding that Kelce is very much Swiftie approved. Unlike a royal wedding, no outsiders know when and where the nuptials will take place. Several media outlets have reported the couple chose what appears to be less than romantic venue, the windowless sports arena, Madison Square Garden. A star-studded crowd is expected, given Swift's roster of celebrity friends, including Selena Gomez, Ed Sheeran, Emma Stone, and Gigi Hadid. Swift's publicist has not responded to requests for comment. Boy, that's surprising, isn't it?
Yes.
A wedding this weekend would coincide with 2 major events likely to draw an influx of tourists to New York City. Dozens of tall ships will sail through New York Harbor for the United States 250th birthday celebration on Saturday, and a World Cup soccer match is set for New Jersey Sunday. It is unclear how much, if any, of the wedding will be made public. The couple posted 5 photos from their engagement on social media, and fans hope to see the video or pictures of her wedding dress, hair, makeup, and jewelry. Whatever Swift chooses will spark new trends that influence bride for years.
This is true.
Fashion experts said. Sarah Chappelle, author of Taylor Swift's Style, Fashion Through the Eras, predicts Swift will lean into old Hollywood romance blended with modern-day glamour for her bridal gown. Taylor has a very signature style and a very signature aesthetic, Chappelle said. Whatever she ends up wearing, I'm sure it is going to define bridal wear for a very long time. I wish them well. I hope they have happiness finally.
Yeah, I'm sure. No, yeah. Well, I can see him in a top hat and the whole ascot and everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a little tidbit. Recess could be the most vital time for school kids. At 10:30 a.m., the bell rings through the halls of William F. Frisk Elementary School in Long Beach, California, sending students racing onto the playground, throwing basketballs, doing cartwheels, and gliding down slides. Recess could very well be the most important 30 minutes of their school day for learning, and it has become a contested period for the nation's youngest students. Teachers use it as a behavioral bargaining chip. Administrators weigh playtime against sagging test scores, and researchers argue over how best to structure the minutes. The debate over recess has grown so confusing that recently the American Academy of Pediatrics stepped in and updated its policy statement. Play is not a reward, a privilege, or wasted learning time. It is a developmental necessity. California made recess the law beginning in the 2023-24 school year, requiring at least 30 minutes of playtime daily for K-6 students and banning teachers and staff from taking it away as punishment. However, researchers say there is not a process to evaluate whether schools are fully adherent to the mandate. Why the debate? Well, under the federal No Child Left Behind Act of 2001, schools faced mounting pressure to raise test scores, creating tensions between learning time and playtime. Up to 40% of U.S. school districts reduce or eliminate recess during that era to free up more time for core academics, according to a national study. Educators say their job is to prepare students academically for a complex, technology-driven society, according to the Pediatrics Association. Educators also point out that schools are responsible for developing the whole child and that recess is an integral part of learning. Having kids sit in their seats for 6 hours a day is not necessarily a recipe for success, said Rebecca London, a sociologist at UC Santa Cruz, who co-authored research that helped shape the legislation. They need a brain break. Everybody needs a brain break. And how important is it? Well, the updated pediatric statement draws on decades of work in several areas, including social and emotional development, physical health, and cognitive and academic performance. For us, we want to know, are the kids thriving during recess? Are they engaged? Are they actually being physically active? Are they benefiting from the play environment, said Celeste Soto, the executive director of Playworks in Southern California, which helps schools and youth organizations plan out beneficial recess strategies. On the cognitive side, pediatricians focus on what researchers call wakeful rest. When students learn new information, the memory is fragile and the brain needs a pause from additional cognitive demands, according to the AAP. Recess can provide a low-demand break so that new information can stabilize before the next lesson begins. Physical activity during recess adds a second layer of benefit. Moderate exercise has been shown to improve learning among students from elementary schools through young adulthood, and the effects on attention, memory, and executive function are well documented. Despite this, the association said recess remains in the discretion of individual teachers in many schools throughout the country. The students are definitely more focused when they've had that time to play, to put their energy out there, said Katie Hickox, principal of Frisk Elementary. But they also engage in important relationships with each other. So what about withholding? The legal ban against withholding recess as punishment has generated friction in California. Many teachers and other professionals in schools feel that in order to get kids to behave, you have to have a credible threat, London said. One of the easiest to implement, kids care a lot about recess. In 23, a Gallup poll cited in analysis of the California legislation found that 77% of principals nationwide reported taking recess away as punishment. Even in school districts with strong policies protecting recess, 60% of schools still withheld it for poor behavior, and 69% withheld it for incomplete academic work. There is no study out there that I have found that says this is an effective way of disciplining elementary school students. Yet it's a very common practice because it's accessible, London said. So what works best? How a school organizes recess matters. In structured play, adults lead the activity versus free play, where the children figure out what to do with minimum adult direction. At Prisk Elementary, students have 4 periods of play a day, varying between structured and unstructured play to prod early childhood development, how to take a turn, how to invite play, how to accept that invitation, Hickok said. So equal access. Research by the American Academy of Pediatrics shows that students who live in low-income neighborhoods and attend schools with higher proportions of students of color receive less recess time and lower quality recess. They are also more likely to have minimal or barren outdoor spaces, less equipment, and adults who restrict access to what little equipment exists, according to the legislative analysis of the law.
You are listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service. The time is 17 minutes after the hour. And in my view, Larry Behan managed to get through a harrowing appointment where? At the DMV.
Of course.
I will be 104 the next time I renew my enhanced driver's license, which witnesses my veteran status, eye color, bears my likeness, and allows me to leave and return to the United States and fly in a commercial airliner. That is soon enough for me. I went through the procedure just last week. I thought renewing my driver's license would be a cinch this time. I had just seen my optometrist for a thorough exam. Since my cataracts are gone, my vision is miraculously better. I no longer need glasses to read or for distance, let alone a driver's license. I phoned for an electronic copy of my latest exam and sat down at my computer to type the DMV driver license renewal application. I congratulated myself at completing that complex form. It took some effort, but then when I tried to submit it, this error message confronted me. You will have to come in person to a DMV office since you no longer need glasses to drive. What? I thought they would be pleased at the improvement in my vision, not see it as a complication requiring more work from me. The last few years, our family has been going to the DMV in North Tonawanda. It is less crowded and it has a convenient restroom. The one in Amherst is usually jammed, and for a restroom, they send you to a none-too-welcoming store in the next building. When I arrived at the North Tonawanda office, I found only one person ahead of me in line. Yay! The reception clerk was friendly, but noticing that I walk with a ski pole and exhibit a few other signs of advanced age, she seemed skeptical of my ability to fill out the necessary forms, as was I. But she entrusted me with them and directed me to a standing desk. I can read without glasses, but this form has rather fine print, and to read it, I had to hold it at a distance. My handwriting was never good, but I got away with it over the years since it is well known that MDs are trained in medical school to scrawl. Problem was that in these advanced years, I had also developed a tremor. Propranolol improves the tremor, and I wish I had taken a dose that morning. When finished scribbling the form, I returned to the reception clerk for my picture. She must have been satisfied with my work since she smiled brilliantly. I responded that the result was the best darn DMV photo I have ever had. She gave me a number. I took a seat. There were more customers now. We waited in rows of black chairs facing a gray wall behind which the clerks worked. They call us up by number. I had the stray thought, what if I was an illegal alien? Were the ICE agents behind that wall waiting to pounce? I glanced about for an escape route. Then my number was called, and a sweet, middle-aged lady took my scrawled application without a blink. Noticing my hearing aids, though, she asked, "Do you have to wear hearing aids to drive?" I hesitated, not sure of the complications this could lead to. Then I ventured, "No, I don't." Her tone changed to a command. "Take them out and turn around." I swallowed, complied, and listened intently. She whispered, "What date is it?" Fortunately, I had just written the date on the application, and I replied, "May 19th. Now I'm good to age 104.
Okay, I don't know anybody who whispers to me when I'm driving in my car. Honestly. I mean, what are you listening for there? Oh my goodness. I can't wait to go for mine. It'll be fun. Okay, so let's look at the editorial cartoon. There's a couple of good ones here, but I'm going to give you this one. There's a picture of J.D. Vance standing with his arms out, sweat pouring off his brow, and the J is much brighter for justify. That's not his first name, obviously. And D for defend. And at his feet are a thing for gas prices going up, the Israel being unhappy, and Iran leaders emboldened. All front page news that he has tried to justify and defend. And I'll let you make your own opinion on that one. So the editorial for the Buffalo News, realistic expectations. Jamal's focus on key projects like the Statler is good for him in Buffalo. At least he isn't blaming Buffalo and New York politicians anymore. And he has renewed his commitment to completing key projects in a still substantial portfolio of major properties. Over the past few months, faced with challenges in Buffalo and in D.C., where the bulk of his development portfolio resides, developer Douglas Jamal has been slowing down, pausing, and divesting when he can. Even Jamal, once hailed as a transformational force in Buffalo's development, can't overcome the formidable stumbling blocks that now confront anyone involved in construction and property management. In a recent roundup of the developer's current activity, the News' Jonathan Epstein reports that Jamal still owns more than 24 properties, many of which are for sale. He also quotes Jamal as stating his intent to concentrate my efforts on key downtown properties, the Statler, the former HSBC atrium on Washington Street, and the large former Buffalo News parking lot behind it along Scott Street. If work on these major projects, especially the Statler, proceeds, that's good news. It was never realistic to expect one single developer to encompass Jamal's sprawling portfolio, which at one time included transforming the former Boulevard Mall into a town center, redeveloping the former Buffalo News building, and operating the Richardson Hotel, formerly Hotel Henry, on Richardson Olmsted campus, as well as redeveloping several other historic structures there. Those projects are now in other hands and are moving in positive directions. That's also good news, particularly for the Richardson Hotel. The Richardson Center Corporation is providing good stewardship of this property, one of Buffalo's most important historic landmarks, and has already restored the Deborah Burke designed entrance to the hotel. What Jamal has already done in Buffalo is significant enough. He bought Buffalo's tallest buildings, the empty Seneca one out of foreclosure, and turned it into a thriving mixed-use complex filled with apartments and business tenants, including M&T's technology hub. The developer also converted downtown historic former police headquarters into 113 apartments and restored the Meidenbauer House on High Street. Though it's a matter of opinion as to whether the looming mass that's been built behind the historic storefronts of Jamal's Elmwood Bidwell project is aesthetically pleasing, at least that redevelopment is nearing completion. Whatever happens with the developer's remaining properties, most would agree that the crucial piece is the Statler. Jamal's plan involves a complete stabilization and renovation of the 800,000 square foot historic hotel. It would feature, as now, lower level banquet and entertainment spaces along with a boutique hotel and more than 200 apartments. Jamal has already spent $30 million on this project and has received $10 million in state assistance, though it's less than he requested. Completion of this project, including its promise of adding hundreds of residential units to the heart of downtown, is essential, and Jamal isn't greedy, just realistic in requesting help from government sources. Additional public sector financing is not out of line for this downtown linchpin, which could be a boon for Buffalo's tourist industry. In the past, Jamal has called out Governor Kathy Hochul for not doing enough. That rhetoric has been softened. New York State has made substantial investments in a host of downtown projects, including his, and the developer now says he appreciates the collaborative relationship between Hochul, Erie County Executive Mark Poloncarz, Buffalo Mayor Sean Ryan, and U.S. Rep. Tim Kennedy. He should. All of Buffalo should appreciate the help of these political leaders in revitalizing a landmark they know well. If the Statler gets done, and that's still a sizable if, Jamal will have fulfilled a decades-long dream.
For a lot of us.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, Kathleen Parker asks, is divorce getting hairier? Just ask the family pet about that. In a nation of people who view pets as family members and spend $158 billion last year on their best friends, it was inevitable that pet custody would become the next chapter in family law. We love our pets as much as we love our people, if not more. The death of a pet has shattered my heart more than any other loss. Take Asheville, a beautiful shaggy black and white mutt. In 1993, I rescued her and her sister, Brevard, from a North Carolina highway halfway between the two cities that gave them their names. They were 4-month-old starving sacks of bones with engorged ticks dangling from their eyelids, lips, and everywhere else. For the rest of her life, Ash would sit before me like a sphinx and stare into my eyes for hours that would have extended into days if not for the necessity of moving one's legs. When she died at 20, predeceasing Brevard, also known as Beezy, by 2 years, I was bereft. Someone said to me, I know you miss Ash so much because you loved her so much. And I replied, no, I miss her so much because she loved me so much. In the years after, I've managed the grief of burying a best buddy, a mother, and my brother, but my heart still aches most for Ash and the bees, and Ollie, the blind poodle, among others. Pew Research Center says 51% of Americans value pets as much as they do family members. About 95 million households owned a pet last year, with 53% of all homes having a dog and 39% having a cat. This is hardly surprising. Ask yourself, who is always ecstatic to see you when you re-enter a room from which you totally vanished just 3 minutes earlier? The question of who gets the family pet during a divorce has become so common and vexing that legislatures have begun doling out custody guidelines. The underlying premise is that since pets are members of the family, their well-being should be considered. According to The Economist, at least 8 states have taken steps to protect what's best for pets. Last year, the Pennsylvania House passed a bill classifying pets in divorce proceedings as living beings that are generally regarded as cherished family members. The bill remains under consideration in that state Senate. Obviously, dogs and cats can't choose which parents they prefer, nor would they want to, assuming neither human is abusive. Like children, dogs, and maybe cats adore both parents and are never more content than when everyone is together and no one is mad. My husband and I should know we are the parents of 5 dogs, 3 cats who think they're dogs, and 4 birds who live like royalty and hate us. I am the better parent because I cook their food and let them sleep with me. I need a bigger bed. The husband, meanwhile, takes the dogs on golf cart rides and long walks twice a day, so they probably like him best in those moments. Our cats also go on the walk, slinking along a few steps behind, like black-clad Secret Service agents in a presidential parade. If I were forced to divide our pack, we'd cancel the divorce, so that's that, I guess. But do we really need courts to settle our pet policies? People think nothing of sharing custody of their children, why not their pets? For divorcing couples and their pets, arbitration should be a first step during family disunity. As reported by The Economist, the pet can become leverage for negotiating better terms in other areas. You can have the dog, but I get the tractor. Okay. Some proponents of official custody arrangements have argued for pet support to the custodial parent. A New York divorcee with custody of the people's 2 dogs receives $1,000 per month in financial support.
Wow.
Let's see, that would be $2,500 to me just for the pups. Admittedly, pet custody isn't the stickiest wicket, but granting human, not just humane, considerations to pets signals a potentially problematic trend. American birth rates are just 1.6 babies per woman, well below the 2.1 replacement rate. Already, more households have pets than children, and 48% of Gen Zers see no difference between their pets and children. It's easy to imagine pets replacing babies in the future family unit of choice. Of course, the expensive little secrets in our household is that we spend more on our pets than we do on ourselves. On the bright side, if you're our pets, we can't afford a divorce.
That's a lot of support for a dog.
Yeah.
So you are listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service. The time is 31 minutes past the hour. And from L.Z. Granderson, fear-mongering has long been used to set policy. In the race to build or stop construction of data centers across the country, it's important to remember no government is spending more on artificial intelligence than us. According to the Brookings Institute, the number of AI contracts within the federal government has risen from 472 back in 22 to over 1,700 this year. Most of the spending, $90 billion, is by the Department of Defense. However, other departments are spending tens of millions. There's no getting around that data centers are the physical embodiment of what AI does. But what makes me most uneasy is not knowing whether we're looking at disruptive technology that will help all of society or a disruption that exists mainly to make the planet's richest people more money. Our history is peppered with examples of the latter. The world's first trillionaire became a household name in part because the demand for electric cars skyrocketed a short time after EVs all but left the market. General Motors spent years developing its EV1, then discontinued the model, citing production costs. Was it really that, or the oil industry through lobbyists and campaign donations undermining the car's success to protect its own interest? Or was it the public who did not want to change? Larry Burns, the former vice president for research and development for General Motors, who killed the automaker's electric car, said if he could turn back time, they would not have stopped investing in the emerging technology. I'm reminded of those 32 solar panels President Jimmy Carter had installed on the White House in '79. They did not make it past the next administration. Today, China owns more than 80% of the solar market from every stage of production. The U.S. didn't just sacrifice its chance to corner a future clean energy market back when we were its pioneers, we also forfeited all the manufacturing and supply chain jobs that would have gone with that. Go back to 1937 and the Marijuana Tax Act. It was built on fear, sensationalism, and some historians argue the interest of industries that didn't want hemp fiber competing with their own products. The science separated the THC from the fiber, but the story elected officials told the public didn't. Had hemp, the building material, and marijuana, the drug, not shared the same fate, perhaps it would be the U.S. and not Europe leading in industrial hemp production. Unfortunately, because of the stigma associated with the plant, industrial hemp production was illegal until the 2018 Farm Bill. That's insane. Today, Belgium's IsoHemp runs an automated factory producing millions of hempcrete blocks a year, and Europe's industrial hemp construction market is projected to grow nearly six-fold by 2033. The same scenario is playing out about data centers and AI. So much about the technology has been draped in doomsday scenarios and Terminator movies. It's hard sometimes to separate the impossible from the improbable. Even more difficult if you can't tell if the technology is meant for the good of all or just aiming to be good for someone's bottom line. Maybe, unlike in the marijuana prohibition era, the scary warnings are valid. But now, just as then, we need to separate fact from myth before setting policy.
And the Supreme Court discovers the hardships about gun ownership, and this is written by Stephen Carter. Pity the poor gun owner. According to the Supreme Court's decision Thursday in Woolford versus Lopez, it's tough to navigate daily life when one has to constantly stop to figure out where one's legally permitted weapon can be carried. So tough, in fact, that the judiciary must step in. In Woolford, the court voted 6-3 to strike down a Hawaii statute that bans carrying legal firearms on private property that's otherwise open to the public unless the owner gives express permission. The outcome is no surprise. The method, though, is unusual. Before we go any further, let's be clear. The case was limited to the rights of gun owners with permits who can carry their weapons onto private property that is otherwise open to the public, an amusement park, say, or a movie theater. It has nothing to do with their right to carry onto other private property, your house or apartment, for example. Which brings us to the statute in question. Everyone agrees that the owner of private property, otherwise open to the public, may refuse entry to customers who bring weapons. A store owner who posts a "No Guns Allowed" sign is not violating the rights of gun owners. He is exercising his own property rights. The question the S had to decide was whether the owner must post that sign to keep guns out, or whether the state can in effect do it for him by adopting a law that denies permission unless the owner expressly says otherwise. Much of the argument, as always in Second Amendment cases these days, involves historical references, but more interesting to the general reader, and I think more troubling, is the role played by the potential inconvenience. From the start, Justice Samuel Alito's majority opinion evinces solicitude for lawful gun owners, who, absent judicial intervention, might suffer through anxious days. When these permit holders leave home in the morning, not only must they take care to avoid all the territory where the possession of a gun is prohibited outright, but they may also be barred from entering many places that people routinely visit in the course of their daily routines, such as gas stations, convenience stores, restaurants, coffee shops, drugstores, grocery stores, big box stores, home improvement stores, barber shops, or hair salons, dry cleaners, and laundromats. I mean, bummer, all that worry. Don't get me wrong, I do think the Second Amendment has teeth, and I'm not about to say that all government regulations of the right to bear arms should be upheld. The puzzling part, however, is that here, in striking down the Hawaii law, the majority seems concerned mostly about how those anxiety-filled days might go. Further on, for example, Alito gives us a hypothetical young woman who goes armed for self-protection and on the way home from work wants to stop and buy groceries, but may be unable to shop because she cannot find anyone who has been authorized by management to consent to her carrying a firearm. She also violates the statute by arriving in the parking lot and later at a restaurant. Yes, she might leave the weapon at work or at home, but she will be vulnerable for that period of time. One can, of course, see the point, but I'm not sure that the mere existence of momentary risk entirely persuades. Here, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson in dissent. The majority simply equates the ability to carry a gun with the right to carry anywhere and everywhere. On the other hand, Alito's opinion demonstrates with some force that at least in the case of Hawaii, the web of laws restricting where one might carry a lawful firearm is so thick that it is hard for a citizen with a legal permit to keep from violating them. Perhaps the better argument, then, is not against this particular statute, but against the state's impenetrable Tholian web. Otherwise, given all that these hypothetical stores and restaurants are free to ban guns by saying so, it's not quite clear what burden, besides the inconvenience, justifies the conclusion that Hawaii's default rule violates the Second Amendment. That said, there's another contentious issue that the majority got right. It is past time for gun control advocates to stop citing the anti-black state statutes of Jim Crow as evidence of historical restrictions on gun ownership or use. In Woolford, Hawaii pointed to a Louisiana law adopted during Reconstruction that created a presumptive rule that an owner could not carry a firearm onto somebody else's property. The law's purpose was to make it harder for black residents to hunt.
Hmm.
Here we can put aside Alito's response to that citation. We can put aside Alito's response that the citation is offensive. Justice Amy Coney Barrett, in her concurring opinion, gets to the heart of the matter. The citation is irrelevant. A statute adopted in order to subordinate a particular racial group is no precedent for a statute adopted in pursuit of public safety. But the fact that the majority is right about what should and shouldn't be cited doesn't imply that the majority is right about everything. We are talking, after all, about private property. Like the dissenters, I'm not at all certain that a constitutional right is at stake when the argument is over, what form of refusal of permission must take. Even if the court is right about the stakes, Shirley Jackson is right that establishing a violation of the Second Amendment should require more than showing of inconvenience. The inconvenience of having to seek a parade permit isn't an unfair burden on free speech. The inconvenience of having to comply with legal requirements for tax-exempt status isn't an unfair burden on the freedom of religion. Inconvenience shouldn't be a stronger argument under the Second Amendment than it is under the First. That was a Bloomberg opinion.
And as part of our newspaper reading, we now present the day's death listings. If you need further information on any of these names, you can call us at 716-821-5555. Teresa R. Dashka, D-A-J-K-A, Ni Pichaki. Thomas E. Harkin. Mady E. Janik, Ni Vale. Pat D. Montemarano. Betty Jane Smith, Ni Alfano. Leonard J. Soban, known as Waldo. Terry L. Garaki. Professor Kasriel Lebovic, known as Nick. Joan R. Sorchi, Ni Bergio. Jeffrey J. Sturmer, and Michael R. Woods. Again, if you need further information on any of these names, please call us at 716-821-5555. Again, that's 716-821-5555.
And it's Royal Stars time. Happy birthday for the last day of June, June 30th, 2026. You are sensitive to others. You're also optimistic, imaginative, and practical. This is a year of new beginnings, adventures, and major changes in your life. Keep your eyes open for new opportunities. Define your goals. What you do now will bring great benefits in your future. I think that's true for just about everybody.
It's true.
Aries, today might begin in a stressful way, especially with parents, bosses, VIPs, and the police. But this does not have to be the tone to your whole day, because tonight you will be admired. Taurus, steer clear of controversial issues. They will be a bummer earlier in the morning. Tonight, just explore and learn.
Controversy's always bad.
Yeah. Gemini, even though you might be concerned about a financial squeeze this morning, perhaps it's hard to pay the bills. Join the club. We number the millions. Tonight, you should also check your finances. That's interesting. That was written kind of weird. Started with even though, and it didn't give you a positive end. Okay, Cancer. There's no good news. Oh, excuse me. There's good news and there's bad news. The bad news is that Mercury's retrograde is taking place. What does that mean? I don't know. Tonight, just listen and cooperate. This seemed very vague in the stars today.
You know, Mars will be talking to you.
Yep, Leo. Great news. Big-hearted, generous moneybags Jupiter moves into glamorous, loyal Leo today to stay for the year. Tonight, get better organized because that finance is coming your way. Virgos, today begins with some challenges with your kids or with a romantic partner, like your husband. Someone sucked
brother.
the joy out of your morning. So
you go.
tonight, you better socialize.
That's my brother.
Libras. Lucky Jupiter is moving into the part of your chart that will activate your interaction with friends, clubs, and organizations for the next 12 months. So tonight you better relax at home. It's going to be a wild ride. Scorpios, today Lucky Jupiter moves into the top of your chart. It will stay there for a year, boosting your profession and your reputation. Tonight you better talk about it. There will be discussions. Sagittarius, today Lucky Jupiter moves into your fellow fire sign for 12 months. Boy, Jupiter's really moving. This is a big help. Tonight, check your belongings. Ooh,
Oh, jeez.
perhaps he moved through and took some. I don't know. Capricorns, pardon me. You like financial security, like we all do, because you like well-planned endings. This is why you'll be pleased to know that Moneybags Jupiter is moving into one of your money houses today. Tonight, you're going to be strong. Aquarius, today, Lucky Jupiter is moving opposite your sign, making the next 12 months the best time for Aquarians to get married.
Oh,
Wow.
I wonder if Kelsey and Swifty are.
I don't know. Tonight, you better enjoy your privacy. Perhaps you could Google that while
yeah.
I'm getting onto the Pisces.
We'll do
Yeah.
that during the break.
Okay. Starting today and for the next 12 months, you'll have wonderful opportunities to improve your health as well as your job, and that's for Pisces. Tonight, just be friendly to someone,
That's
anyone at all.
I want to meet this Moneybags Jupiter guy.
Let's invite him over to the house.
Yeah, I know, right? Okay. All right, so moving on to being stuck in neutral, as new cars not changing much. Consumers may be returning to dealer showrooms over the next couple of years to look at new vehicles that have few changes, as an electric vehicle head fake contributed to product delays, a former Bank of America securities analyst said. Profitability should pick up in the latter part of the decade, though, as new products once again hit lots. Midsize SUV shares shifted toward more profitable rugged models, and small, where we go here, small,
I'm sorry, I don't have you.
okay, you disappeared. Here we go.
Small.
Profitable, okay. Oh, I'm gonna go. Start again. Here we go. Here we are. Sorry, folks. Small pickups and hybrids become a long-term solution to fuel energy, not just a bridge to EVs, according to the report from John Murphy, who's traditionally behind the annual Car Wars study, but has ventured on his own as a consultant. You have never seen a 3-year period this low, Murphy said. Between model years 26, 27, and 28, we are seeing a crushing depression, and the only reason model years 27 kicks back up is you have the Silverado and Sierra in it. The reality is the rest of the industry is hurting in a huge way. The premise of both Car Wars and the new Murphy Automotive Product Pipeline is that automakers with showrooms of fresher models gain market share, while those that are older lose. Under Biden administration, pressure to make EVs represent half of the U.S. sales by the end of the decade, many automakers pushed forward on EVs only to struggle to find demand, especially as the government ended subsidies after President Trump returned to office. Major automakers have made approximately $70 billion in write-downs for EVs as they've canceled vehicle programs and delayed debuts. That's left a big gap in the cadence of new vehicle launches until the next generation of trucks at the end of the decade. The vehicle redesign rate is for 26 and 28 is about half or less than 14% average between 2007 and 2026. The average product age gets up to 4.8 on a volume rate basis. I don't know what that means. And that's crazy, whatever it means. No, that means that consumers are going back to showrooms that have bought a vehicle in the last 3 to 6 years, and they're being presented with the products that only have minor changes relative to what they just bought. And if you think about what's going on with the pricing industry, not only is it the same products, but somebody's trying to charge them 30% more for it. Instead of EVs, Murphy sees hybrids becoming the dominant powertrain as a long-term solution for fuel efficiency and carbon emission requirements, as opposed to an older view that hybrids were a bridge for consumers to get to EVs. The industry is proving out that hybrids are more of a global solution and not a bridge, he said, and ultimately hopefully, whatever the new administration is in 2029, recognizes they need to be very careful with the way they run regulation in the industry, not to really disrupt things and make the U.S. industry uncompetitive. Murphy also predicted the heart of the market will shrink from mid-size SUVs to affordable small crossovers and more niche alternatives like small pickups and rugged off-roaders, as evidenced by the success of the Ford Maverick and Bronco. It's interesting.
Yeah. And in Buffalo Next Development, studio to create glass is looking toward DL&W plan. The non-profit glass-making venture that hopes to anchor the second level of the DL&W terminal building is pushing forward with its plans despite a squabble between the developer it was working with and the building's owner. Buffalo Electric Glass, led by Robert Cassetti as interim director, hopes to open the world's largest electric-powered hot glass facility inside the historic Inner Harbor building near Canalside, with the goal of exposing more people to the art of glass making through live demonstrations, hands-on workshops, and artist-led classes in glass blowing. It's like bringing Corning here. The studio would be located in 15,000 square feet of space on the second floor, with capacity to seat more than 200. It would run on renewable all-electric glass melting and reheating technology and will use recycled materials for environmental sustainability. Cassetti, a 30-year veteran of glass blowing programs who developed a mobile glass blowing initiative, is a former senior director at the Corning Museum of Glass and a founding board president of the new nonprofit. The group unveiled the rest of its inaugural board of directors last week, including Emily Tucker of the University at Buffalo's Colleges of Arts and Sciences, Visit Buffalo Vice President of Destination Experience Renata Toney, Olean Community Development Program Coordinator Carrie Kerper, and developer Samuel Savarino. But it is far from smooth sailing. BEG has a contract with Savarino, who had the development rights to the second floor under a pre-development agreement with the Niagara Frontier Transportation Authority, the building's owner. However, the venture remains mired in uncertainty, along with the rest of Savarino's vision for the remainder of the building, after the NFTA announced in November that it had terminated Savarino's developer agreement. The Niagara Frontier Transportation Authority currently has no agreement, lease, or development arrangement with Buffalo Electric Glass, Savarino, or any other party for space within the DL&W complex, spokeswoman Kelly Khatib said in an emailed statement. The authority said it acted in good faith for many years, but criticized the developer for failing to provide a viable business plan to revive the second floor into a retail and entertainment hub. However, Savarino countered in a legal notice of claim that the NFTA failed to engage in constructive cooperation with a genuine interest in moving the project forward to completion. He has not yet filed a lawsuit and claims in a post on the project website that we are not interested in a protracted legal fight with the NFTA. We want to complete this project. We have the team, the plan, the tenants, the experts, and the capital to do it. What we need is for the NFTA to return to the table in good faith, Savarino said. In the meantime, Khatib said NFTA is advancing major improvements that will open the DL&W to the public later this year and position the site for future development. Those investments include continued shoreline and seawall improvements, construction of a new pedestrian bridge across the South Park Avenue to connect the DL&W to KeyBank Center, and activation of the train's shed's upper deck. The authority is preparing the DL&W to become a more accessible and development-ready destination, Khatib said. When the space is complete, the NFTA will welcome ideas and proposals that align with the region's long-term interests and support the potential of this historic site. Under the pre-development agreement, Savarino was supposed to renovate the 74,000 square foot second floor and its adjacent 56,000 square foot exterior deck in an $80 million project to create a public market and entertainment venue with kiosks for shopping, groceries, and dining options, as well as seating, public art, year-round programming, and a live music and event venue. That would be above the new Metro Rail station that the NFTA completed and opened late last year. But Savarino's plan was dependent on the NFTA finishing structural and stabilization repairs to the building that were delayed by unexpected shoreline and seismic work, driving the cost up substantially. The agency invested $57 million but ran out of money for the rest. Savarino and the NFTA jointly sought more state aid a year ago. Until the work is complete, the second floor is not safe for significant use. Savarino claims he had offered to take on more of that work as well, and he revised his plans and budget last year by postponing, consolidating, or removing some elements of the project, according to the blog. Early this year, he wrote in the blog, his team provided a revised lease and updated development plan to the NFTA, in which Savarino would fund and undertake the seismic and roof deck repairs, the owner's improvements, and the remaining second floor metro station work, in addition to its own project. We have presented a supportable and achievable path to a fully complete, open, and operational project in the year 2028, consistent with Savarino's original proposal accepted by the NFTA, Savarino wrote. The NFTA was asked to improve and repair its second floor space and to pay its share of operating expense for that portion of the metro station. Instead, Savarino claims the NFTA asked him to name a price to walk away. Savarino declined. What would community think of us if we were to accept such an offer, he asked in a blog. We have worked for more than 6 years and invested more than $1.7 million to develop a vision for something Buffalo and its waterfront genuinely need. As for the glass-making studio, Cassetti said he is aware of Sam's ongoing discussions with the NFTA, and he remains confident, although he has no direct contact with the NFTA. Our agreement is with Sam as the developer, and I believe it will all work out, he said. We are in startup mode and have much development work to do in the next 12 to 18 months. I have a feeling it'll all be sorted out by then.
Just a quick note, they did find a replacement for Jennifer Stenosis. Sarah Kress, who is from Wilson and Niagara County, is expected to start in a few weeks. She most recently worked at a station in Medford, Oregon that serves Southern Oregon and Northern California, and her last day there was on Friday. According to her profile at KDRV, Kress has been with the ABC affiliate for 2 years, and she graduated from Ohio State University with a bachelor's degree in atmospheric sciences. Also from the profile, growing up, Sarah always woke up extra early to catch the morning weather forecast before heading out to school. Living on the shores of the Great Lakes, she loved learning and trying to make her own forecasts for the intense lake effect weather in the winter months. When not at work, Sarah is either reading, out rock climbing, or grabbing a coffee at a new cafe. During the football season, she spends time cheering on her favorite team, the Buffalo Bills.
You're listening to reading of articles from the Buffalo News for today, Tuesday, June 30th, on your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. We will return for more readings after this short break. Your readers today are
Lita
and Lori.
Lori. I should have said Lori first.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this publication online, you're probably using our website, a podcast player like Spotify or iTunes, a streaming service like Siro, or a smart speaker. Did you know that we now have a dedicated app that can be downloaded to any mobile device, like a smartphone or tablet, for free? App users can conveniently access our live stream and any episode of our podcast easier than ever. To download the app, just type NFRRS in the search window in the Apple App Store or in the Google Play Store. Contact us anytime if you have any questions by calling 716-821-5555, extension 5. Thank you.
Okay. We'll continue now with our reading of articles from today's Buffalo News. Your readers are Lori.
And Leah.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, here we go. I'm going to find where I am here now because I'm lost, Lori. Maybe
Oh,
you'd
no.
like to start.
Let's talk about the whistleblower who weighs in on the Goodyear plant pollution.
There, that's
More than
good.
2 years after the state declined to require the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company to conduct new emissions testing at its Niagara Falls chemical plant, the output from the facility's smokestacks continue to worry neighbors and environmental advocates. And while Goodyear and the State Department of Environmental Conservation say the plant does not pose an imminent danger to the public, opponents say that they are being asked to take the company and the regulator at their word without sufficient evidence to back it up. Heard that before. Dylan Keenan, an engineer at the DEC, had raised concerns about the accuracy of emissions testing conducted at the Goodyear plant in November back in 2022. Keenan's work and his subsequent issues with the DEC were highlighted Monday at a news conference near the plant. Keenan was given an Environmental Justice Hero Award by advocacy groups for what they describe as Keenan's refusal to suppress his concerns about the Goodyear plant, which he said led to his job being threatened. He's currently on unpaid suspension and in arbitration with the DEC over that matter. I am here because my findings were thorough and truthful, and I stood behind them, Keenan said during the press conference. I would like to thank the community groups for supporting me in my concerns for protecting lives in the community from exposure to known human bladder carcinogen O-toluidine. Emission tests conducted in 2022 showed Goodyear was polluting 7 times above the state's safe limit of orthotoluidine, a chemical used in tire manufacturing that has links to bladder cancer. But Keenan alleged that the data was faulty and seriously underestimated the true amount of orthotoluidine pollution. Keenan said Goodyear had been releasing 12 to 37 times more of the chemical that the state considered safe. Keenan alleged that Goodyear data had been deliberately falsified, which Goodyear and the DEC both deny. But they said it was 7 times above. I mean, that's still bad, right?
Yeah.
In both a civil rights lawsuit filed in federal court in Syracuse and in interviews with the Buffalo News, Keenan claims he was forced to soft pedal and suppress his concerns in communications with both Goodyear and the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Keenan withdrew the federal lawsuit, he said, to let the arbitration process proceed. Keenan was given the award during a press conference held in Niagara Falls across the street from the Goodyear plant off of 56th Street. The groups and individuals who gathered Monday to present Keenan the award included the NAACP Niagara Falls branch, Sierra Club Niagara, and Interfaith Climate Justice Community, a representative for Congressman Tim Kennedy, Niagara County Legislature Minority Leader Jeffrey Elder, and Niagara Falls City Council Chairman Brian Archie. We commend Dylan Keenan for his courage and his dedication to environmental justice for the people living near the Goodyear factory who have been breathing cancer-causing polluted air above the state's annual requirements for many years. Janet Linenchek, chair of the Sierra Club Niagara chapter, said Keenan's work helped reveal the extent to which Goodyear's pollution could be poisoning surrounding neighborhoods. An unusually elevated risk of bladder cancer was found around the plant, according to an analysis of New York State Department of Health data by the news. It may not pose an immediate threat, but the long-term effects of breathing in carcinogenic emissions over months and years is certainly detrimental to human health. Mm-hmm. In a written comment to the news, TJ Pignataro, a spokesperson for the DEC, repeated earlier statements that there is no imminent public risk to the community from Goodyear's emissions, the key word probably being imminent. Mm-hmm. Pignataro also noted that the agency cannot comment on ongoing personnel matters. The Goodyear plant has been the subject of scrutiny over the past year and a half as the DEC has reviewed the company's application for a renewed air pollution permit. In September of 2024, news broke that the Goodyear plant was emitting orthotoluidine, a known bladder carcinogen, into the air at levels 1,000% higher than the state's health-based guidance. The DEC has since required Goodyear to improve its pollution control technology. Interim controls to reduce the amount of orthotoluidine released into Niagara Falls air have been in place since April, while permanent controls must be in place by October. After Keenan's suspension, letters show DEC worked with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency to possibly get the Goodyear's plant's emissions retested. The Goodyear plant was supposed to be retested for emissions in the summer of 24. In an August 24 letter to DEC, Goodyear requested the testing be delayed until after the company was able to install new pollution control measures. The DEC agreed to that request. No new testing of Goodyear's temporary pollution controls have been performed, and that's over almost 2 years now.
Yeah, it should never drag out that long with something that important. So we have, I just want to read something that was in the obituaries. Is about a 26-year-old. Her name was Lauren Shields, and she changed New York organ transplant laws. Lauren Shields changed the law before she was a teen. She spent innumerable hours working to increase awareness about the need for organ and tissue donation, freely sharing her own story that included a heart transplant as a child, a transplanted kidney donated by her mother, and an ongoing search for another kidney, making public appearances as she struggled with her health. At the age of 8, the Stony Point girl had fallen ill and was found to need a heart transplant, and she received that heart at age 9. Shields died Thursday at age 26, and in the summer of 2020, Lauren Shields had undergone a kidney transplant with Jean Shields as her donor. Even as Shields had announced in 25 she was in need of another kidney transplant and had launched a search for a match, she made clear that the work she did to raise awareness went well beyond her own needs. I feel like I've been so lucky to already have received a heart and a kidney, Shields said in August of 25, wiping away a tear. Thousands of people are also waiting. They also deserve a chance. Lauren and her family's journey underscored a problem New York faced. The state is among the lowest level of registered organ donors. State Senator David Carlucci had the bill that wasn't getting traction to help change donor sign-up laws to address the problem. Lauren Shields jumped into lobbying for the legislation, speaking at Rotary clubs and other organizations to garner support. She was so small, she often used a step stool to be seen behind the lectern. Then Governor Andrew Cuomo signed Lauren's law on the 3rd of October in 2012. Lauren's law requires anyone applying for or renewing a driver's license or non-driver license ID card to answer a question about joining the organ and tissue donor registration on the Department of Motor Vehicle application. The question had been optional, so easily skipped. The change had the impact Lauren and supporters envisioned and has boosted registry numbers. Lauren Shields was born on April 13th in 2000. She was a graduate of North Rockland High and Dominican University, and Lauren Shields worked for Live On New York. Survivors include her mom, Jean, her dad, David, her brother, Brandon, and sister-in-law, Stephanie Shields. She has nephew, Stephen, and grandmother, Mary, and extended family. Her advocacy helped encourage many to sign up as organ and tissue donors, work that impacted the lives of many New Yorkers and beyond. She continued that leadership and generosity as a registered tissue donor, according to her family. Wow.
And in her honor, maybe those who are thinking about it should take the action today and sign up.
Yes, they should.
All right. City School Board member questions the hiring of a law firm. A Buffalo School Board member has added a new layer of concern to the ongoing sexual harassment allegations against an unnamed board member. At-large board member Larry Scott on social media Monday criticized the process by which the Buffalo School Board picked Hodgson Rush LLP to lead the investigation, questioning when and how the firm was identified and if there were any conflicts of interest between the board and the firm. I believe that an independent firm that is free from any previous association with BPS and board members must conduct this investigation and be done so through our RFP process with a scope of the investigation determined and then publicly approved, Scott wrote on Facebook, using the acronym for Requests for Proposals, RFPs. For the multiple allegations that a Buffalo School Board member sexually harassed Buffalo Schools employees, there is no record of a request for proposals to find an investigative firm, a public listing of how much Hodgson Rush LLP would be paid, or who will pay the firm, nor a clear description of the scope of the investigation. Emails shared with the Buffalo News earlier this month show the school board's leadership team was aware of allegations on June 2nd, but did not name an investigator until June the 26th. Amid the turmoil among board members, North District Representative Cindy McCann announced her resignation last week, citing concerns with transparency and decision-making. She is the first board member to resign since Catherine Flanagan Priori resigned in 2018. The board's current process deviated from recent precedent. To investigate cover-up allegations made by a Buffalo police detective against Buffalo schools last year, Public Building was the board's strategy to identify Rupp Falsgraf LLC as the third-party investigator. The board did, however, initially consider choosing the firm without a formal bidding process before voting 6-3 to bid after more than 4 hours of private deliberation. In connection to his concerns about the board's transparency, Scott noted the link between board member Stephen Wright and Adam W. Perry, an attorney at Hodgson Russ with whom Wright has worked closely on district-related initiatives in the past. Campaign disclosure documents show a donation of $500 from Perry to Wright's campaign back in February of 25. School Board President Kathy Evans Brown, in her statement last week announcing the firm, specified Jeffrey Swiatek, a partner at Hodgson Rush, will lead the independent investigation to ensure an impartial and fair review of the allegations. Hodgson Rush employs more than 200 attorneys, according to its website. Scott added that the specific sexual harassment complaints have not been disclosed to him, nor has the identity of the board member who is the subject of the investigation. Despite emailed assurances from Evans Brown, the information would be shared back on June the 17th. And I lost my page. Here we go. I found it. Yay!
Okay.
Scott also believes the board member who's the target of allegations participated in choosing the firm. In an email on June 10th, the board president indicated that the accused board member will be excluded from decisions on legal consultation prospective investigative firms, Scott wrote. This has not happened. No answers have been provided about the procedure the board followed to find a lead investigator, and there is no evidence a vote was taken. The news release in which the board identified Hodgson Russ LLP also does not mention how the firm was chosen. The timeline of the June 17th board meeting created further confusion. After an executive session, which the board regularly holds before its scheduled meetings, Evans Brown told the public that no official action was taken after listing a few legal items which appeared to be unrelated, which the board discussed. Near the conclusion of the meeting, Evan Browns, in a prepared statement, described how the allegations would be investigated. So, this is still unfinished business, she said. This is a statement from the Board of Education regarding allegations against a board member. The Buffalo Board of Education has identified and will be contacting an outside independent firm to investigate allegations against a board member to move forward with addressing these allegations. Unfinished business, in school board vernacular, refers to continued discussion of an agenda item raised during a previous board meeting. For Buffalo, no record exists on a board agenda or in board meeting video of any discussions about allegations against a board member in any previous meetings this school year. Executive session is the avenue in which school boards can, among other things, confidently discuss legal matters and receive legal advice. The Buffalo School Board gave no indication the firm was selected in executive session. However, an open meetings law dictates the board, with the exception for teachers and administrator discipline, cannot take action in executive session by conducting a vote during its private meeting. Typically, the board would vote publicly upon returning to the table, and the board would have privacy protections that would allow them to not reveal some details about the topic upon which they were voting. The lack of transparent public process has compelled Scott to continue voicing his objections. The constant, empty rhetoric from a few cynics that I or others who offer an opposing view or speak out are racist will not silence me. Worst of all, in this case, it disregards and demeans the voices, dignity, and rights of those who complained.
Moving over to asking Eric. Dear Eric, I am a 64-year-old woman who allowed my daughter, 35, and my son-in-law, 34, to move in about 2 years ago. They committed to each other in 2022 but didn't make a legal partnership. They have an open relationship. He has pretty much always had a girlfriend. And when I asked my daughter where her boyfriend was, she said she could have one but just had not met someone yet. Well, you see where this is going. Now she has a boyfriend and is happy for the first time in a long time. My daughter now realizes just what she had been missing. My son-in-law feels blindsided as my daughter is asking for a complete break. My heart is so broken. This has all been very fast, and my son-in-law will be moving to another state to move in with his girlfriend. I would love any advice on how to navigate this. Signed, Love Them Both. Dear Love, breakups don't just impact the separating couple as you're experiencing, they affect the family pets. No. Family and friends also find themselves grieving the lost relationship in some ways and having trouble figuring out new norms. This can be especially tough in a situation like yours in which everyone is living together. As with a breakup, communication and clarity about boundaries are going to be very helpful tools for you. You also have a relationship with your son-in-law, and so it's healthy to have a confirmation about what, if any, contact feels right for him moving forward, and what, if any, contact between the two of you feels right for your daughter. It's also fine to take a moment to tell him that you've appreciated the time you've spent together, and you're sorry things are turning out this way. It sounds like you didn't struggle to respect their choices when they were together, even if they weren't the choices that you
would have made for yourself.
Approach the situation in the same way. They're going to need time and space to process this. Part of your journey with this change will mean taking the time and space you need to process it as well. It won't be appropriate to try to do that with them too much, but it's good to acknowledge to yourself that you feel sadness or even grief and wish that things were different. Dear Eric, my dear friend has been in communication with someone online and by phone who claims to be a famous celebrity. She believes this is love, and she is convinced this person is for real. My friend has been in a long-term live-in relationship with a lovely man. She is preparing to abandon this life for the promise from this online person. All her friends and family have tried to convince her this is not a real situation and she is being scammed. She has seen a therapist to no avail, but is still enraptured by this online person. Also, money has been sent to Mr. Fake. I don't know what else we can do to stop this ruination of her life. She will lose love and companionship and is also intending to sell her home. She's waiting for Mr. Fake to send her a plane to pick her up to travel. Just the other day he told her he was ill and had to postpone the trip. Still, she believes him. Any advice? Signed, Very Concerned Friend. Dear friend, romance scams are so common and so dangerous that the FBI has a page dedicated to them and encourages citizens to report them to the Internet Crime Complaint Center at IC3, that's the number 3.gov. So your first option would be to gather as much information as you have and reach out to the authority for help. As you know, a celebrity is highly unlikely to communicate with a fan in this way, and even if the celebrity was really reaching out, your friend should confirm in person and with others that the celebrity is who they say they are before spending any money or making any big changes. Frankly, any online paramour who asks for money and yet promises a plane should be treated with extreme suspicion. Because your friend is taking such extreme measures, such as selling her house, and has rejected the sensible viewpoints offered by many, including her therapist, appealing to her logic may not be effective. It's possible that there is something else happening that's causing her to reject reality. Consider talking to her partner about your concerns. He surely shares them. Ask him about medical intervention or if she has any other troubled behaviors. Anyone who is being scammed is advised to cut off all contact with the scammer immediately, but short of taking her phone and blocking all means of reaching out to the fake celebrity, that may not be an option right now.
You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The time, 20 minutes after the hour. And in Buffalo News, the business of sports. Bills filling out roster of stadium founders. The Buffalo Bills have reached their goal for founding partners at their new stadium, but the team is not ruling out bringing on even more in the coming months. Pete Gelly, president of business operations for the Bills, has said the team aimed to have 8 to 10 founding partners in place at the $2.2 billion stadium. They now have 9, so the Bills are in good shape as the new building nears its opening. But that doesn't mean the Bills aren't trying to bring on more as the team continues to build out a stable of partnership agreements from an assortment of industry categories. It is a significant local revenue stream for the team and critical to its business model. And the interest from some of the bigger brands that can make that type of hefty investment is certainly there, according to Gelly. Seneca Resorts and Casinos became the latest founding partner with the team at new Highmark Stadium. The multi-year deal announced Monday will continue Seneca Resorts as the official casino of the Buffalo Bills and build on their long-standing partnership developed over the past 20 years. The agreement includes naming rights to one of the stadium's most impressive spaces, the Field Club. I think we're close to being done, Gelly said. There's been no lack of interest, and more importantly, we've found the right partners and right fits for the organization. A lot of people reached out to us, but we also targeted a number of companies we wanted to do business with, and fortunately for us, most of them wanted to partner with us as well. When Gelly was working for the Bills in his first run with the team over a decade ago, it was difficult to get national brands to take interest in the team. Things have changed with all of Buffalo's successes in recent years on the field and the concerted effort by the franchise to capitalize that. Toyota, Wegmans, Kaleida, M&T Bank, Verizon, PepsiCo, and Ticketmaster have also signed on as founding partners at the new stadium. Highmark will continue as the stadium's namesake and is also considered a founding partner. The brand is also elevated now that most companies, no matter what level they are on, see value in a partnership. The local revenue is a big piece for the Bills. While the NFL shares massive national revenue, local business remains vital. As one of the smallest markets in the league, Buffalo also must work even harder to keep pace and remain competitive on a league-wide level, especially against franchises with big local corporate bases such as Dallas. While ticket revenue is shared among franchises, local revenue generated through sponsorships and other marketing efforts are not. When you're spending on anything relative to developing the team, that revenue stream is an important aspect of that. It's an important part of our business model, and it will continue to be. For Seneca Resorts and Casinos, the expanding partnership gives the gaming company brand visibility and raises awareness about the Seneca Nation. The Sabres recently announced that Seneca Resorts and Casinos expanded its sponsorship deal with the team to include a home game jersey patch. That deal comes as the Sabres' popularity surges after the team ended a 14-season playoff drought. Also, Seneca operates one of its 3 casinos, the Seneca Buffalo Creek Casino, just a few blocks from KeyBank Center. It's about furthering our business, and that's what we look to do here, said Kevin Nephew, president and CEO of Seneca Resorts. We're a staple in Western New York. We want to continue to be that, he added. When people think about a world-class experience, I hope they think about the Seneca Resorts and Casinos and the Bills and the Sabres. Gelly, who's been back with the Bills for more than 2 years, said Nephew was one of the first leaders of a corporate sponsor that he reached out to. There was an immediate spark and immediate dialogue about how far we could take this relationship. At the Bills' new stadium, there are also plenty of premium spaces to entice companies into partnerships or furthering their relationship. The Bills say the Field Club may be the nicest of those spaces in the new stadium. And now Seneca Resorts and Casino gets the naming rights and gets to hang its branding all over that club, which also provides fans with unprecedented access to the field and to Player Tunnel. The magic really started when we came down the escalator and got to see the grandeur of this club. It truly is phenomenal, Nephew said. It is also an opportunity to make them aware of Seneca Resorts and Casinos and the Seneca Nation. Whether it's the Field Club or any other design elements, we get to leverage that. Located at field level near the Bills sideline, the area will feature a 16,500 square foot event space and direct access to field level. There is access to a patio just behind the team's bench and a view into the Player Tunnel. The area also includes angled bars, pizza ovens, and team-themed decor and art. It will be used year-round on game and event days, as well as for other types of private events. Allie George, chairman of Seneca Resorts and Casinos parent company Seneca Gaming, said there's a real wow factor to the club and the experience it will provide the fans and their guests.
Sounds very posh.
Mm.
So here's an interesting little fact. The NASDAQ and New York Stock Exchange will ring bells from the White House. The NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange will ring the opening bell from the Oval Office for the first time together to launch Trump's much-touted government-backed investment program for children next week, White House Economic Advisor Kevin Hassett said on Monday. We're having a big opening bell ceremony next week, and they're doing that to celebrate the accounts to make sure everybody knows it's time to get an account for your kid, even if it's not born this year, Hassett told the news. President Trump earlier this year unveiled Trump Accounts, a new tax-deferred investment vehicle for U.S. citizens under 18, which is scheduled to be officially launched on Saturday. Under the scheme, the U.S. Treasury will deposit $1,000 as seed money into an investment account for each child with a valid Social Security number born between 2025 and 2028. The NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange did not immediately respond to requests for comment. And let's just flip down here. Critic Bill Maher feted at Embattled Center. Comedian and Trump critic Bill Maher on Sunday received the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor at the Kennedy Center for Performing Arts. The center, which Trump has sought to put his stamp on, was set to temporarily close its doors for a years-long renovation, but is now faced with difficult financial choices after a judge ordered it to be continued operating. Plummeting ticket sales, artist withdrawals, political controversies, and a diminished staff have made restarting a full-scale programming schedule a challenge, multiple sources have said. Bill Maher noted that the potential closure before the event, saying this is the last show here for at least 2 years. The Performing Arts Center has been at the center of Trump's remaking of Washington and the limits of Washington and the limits he faces in enacting his wishes. 2 weeks ago, the Kennedy Center complied with a judge's order to remove Trump's name from the building, which was added by the president's hand-picked board of trustees. Maher has been a target on the president's ire, but also dined with Trump at the White House in 25. The comedian praised the president after the dinner, though their relationship has remained tense.
How about Sabres? Let's talk about the Sabres.
I want to do too.
Led by number 4 overall pick Rudolph, prospects get the chance to display their talents. The moment that's come with being selected in the first round of the NFL draft is finally starting to resonate for Daxon Rudolph. I'm one step closer, Rudolph said Monday at the start of the Buffalo Sabres development camp at Lecom Harbor Center. I don't know if it's sunken in yet, but maybe today. It's kind of started to, just being on the ice with all the guys and starting camp. The Sabres selected Rudolph, a defenseman from Prince Albert of the Western Hockey League, at number 4 in the first round of the NHL draft on Friday. The 6'2", 205-pounder from Lacombe, Alberta, scored 28 goals with 50 assists and was a plus 32 in 68 games with the Raiders in years 25 to 26. He plans to spend at least one season at the University of Denver starting this fall, but Monday marked the first of 4 days he will spend with the Sabres, acclimating to the ins and outs of professional hockey. Normally, high-round draft picks have to travel from the site of the NHL draft to the city of the team that's drafted them. They immediately go into that team's development camp on Monday, as first-round pick Radim Murka and third-round pick David Bitkowski did last summer, traveling from Los Angeles to Buffalo. Rudolph didn't need a plane ticket. He was already in Buffalo for the NHL draft and for pre-draft events last week, then took the weekend to enjoy the area. He returned to KeyBank Center on Saturday for the second day of the draft to watch his friends get selected by NHL teams. Then he spent the rest of the day at Niagara Falls. That was pretty cool, Rudolph said. I've never seen that before. His family returned to Alberta on Sunday, and he spent the rest of the day with the Sabres prospects as they arrived in Buffalo for development camp. Then on Monday, he stepped onto the ice at Harbor Center. Rudolph is one of 28 players at this year's development camp, a lineup made up of 14 forwards, 11 defensemen, and 3 goalies. It includes all 5 of the Sabres draft picks from this year. Rudolph, Ilya Morozov, a center from Miami, Ohio, Oliver Merniks, a center from St. John of Quebec Maritimes, Junior Hockey League, Domain Zongoth, a center from Kuku, Finland, and Dylan Dumont, a right wing from Drummondville of the QMJHL. Gavin McCarthy of Clarence from Boston University and Patrick Geary of Buffalo, going to Michigan State, are also attending the development camp, which concludes with the annual intra-squad scrimmage, and that'll be at 9:30 a.m. on Thursday. A week ago, almost nobody anticipated that Rudolph would even be linked with the Sabres, who acquired the number 4 pick in this year's draft from Chicago as part of a trade June 23rd for defenseman Bowen Byram. There was speculation that the pick could become trade capital as the first round of the draft on Friday approached. Rudolph wasn't projected in mock drafts to go to the Sabres, landing somewhere in the range of 7th to 10th pick in the draft. In fact, he didn't meet with the Sabres until the morning of the draft, even after attending the NHL Scouting Combine earlier this month. That was also in Buffalo, but the Sabres saw Rudolph as the best player available, which locks into the draft philosophy of general manager Jarmo Kallinen. I don't know how to say that, but I'm sure you do. Now, Rudolph is ensconced in the Sabres facilities, and he's got his first taste of the pros with his fitness testing on Monday. It was a tough day in the gym, he said, but everyone's doing it. It's fun to see what everyone else is getting and what you're getting and competing that way. I'm glad it's over for sure, but it was fun.
No, but so here's some kind of sad news. First, let me tell you what time it is. It is, in fact, 32 minutes past the hour, and in case you forget, you're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Ex-Titans Johnson has a diagnosis of ALS. The former running back also played for the Jets, the Cardinals, during his NFL career. He was a 2,000-yard rusher and discussed his ALS diagnosis on ABC's Good Morning America on Monday. Johnson, 39, was the 2009 NFL Offensive Player of the Year after a 2,006-yard campaign with the Tennessee Titans. He set the still-standing NFL record that season with 2,500 yards from scrimmage. He rushed for over 9,000, almost 10,000 yards and 55 touchdowns in 130 career games with the Titans between 2008 and 2013, the Jets in 2014, and the Arizona Cardinals between 2015 and 17. Johnson told co-anchor Michael Strahan that he was diagnosed with ALS, a progressive neurodegenerative disorder also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, in 25. There is currently no cure. There's no history of ALS in my family, said Johnson, who was using a speech-generating device based on recordings of his voice to speak. My doctors believe my case is what's called sporadic ALS, which is actually how the vast majority of ALS cases happen. That's one of the reasons this disease can be so shocking. It can happen to someone who never expected it. Johnson said he is taking part in a clinical trial as part of his ALS treatment. Honestly, I don't know if you ever fully process it, he said, of the diagnosis. At first, you're in shock. Then you realize you have two choices. You can give up or you can fight. And I chose to fight. Johnson's wife, Brittany, said they originally thought his initial symptoms, a weakness in his grip, was related to his football career. Maybe a pinched nerve or something along those lines, but never ALS, she said. Johnson said the disease has progressed much faster than I ever imagined. I want people to understand just how quickly ALS can attack your body, he said. Just over a year ago, I was picking up my 7-year-old daughter so she'd make a wish with her birthday cake. Today, I couldn't do that. Johnson decided to go public to help raise awareness, but also to let people know that he is the same person he was when he starred in the NFL as a 3-time Pro Bowl selection and 6-time 1,000-yard rusher. I want people to know that I'm still me. ALS has changed what my body can do, but it hasn't changed who I am, he said. People sometimes look at the physical disability and assume you're not still the same person inside. I still think the same. I still dream. I still love my family. My body just doesn't cooperate. The Titans and Jets both released statements on Monday. Some people leave a mark on an organization that you just can't put into words. Titans owner Amy Adams Strunk said, "Chris Johnson is one of those people for us. His leadership on the field, in addition to his impact in the locker room and Nashville community, have written him permanently into the story of this franchise. Learning this news is extremely difficult, and we will support Chris every step of the way throughout his journey. We are holding him and his family close and join our fans around the world in expressing our love for Chris." The Jets posted a message on X. "Our entire Jet family is with you, sending strength and support as you face this challenge." ALS is not unfamiliar to the NFL community. Steve McMichael, who won a Super Bowl championship with the Chicago Bears and is a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, announced his diagnosis on April 23rd and 21. He died from ALS complications exactly 4 years later at 67. Steve Gleason played for the New Orleans Saints from 2000 to 2007 and disclosed he had ALS in 2011. Now 49, he remains an advocate for others living with the condition and chronicles his battle on social media.
Well, continuing with sports, let's talk about auto racing. Verstappen wanted a fight to the finish. Max Verstappen said he finally felt he had a winning car after finishing runner-up in Sunday's Austrian Grand Prix. The four-time Formula One champion took the checkered flag only 1.6 seconds adrift of the Mercedes winner George Russell, with the Britain's teammate Kimi Antonelli 0.3 behind in a tight finish at the Red Bull Ring. I think what was satisfying is that this was the first time I felt like actually I could fight for the win, Verstappen said after standing on the Austrian podium for the 9th time in his career. To be that close to a win, I think, is a great effort from the team. They have worked really hard to get these upgrades on the car here, and this is the first time, I think, in the race where I really felt competitive. Verstappen started 5th on the grid after crashing in qualifying, but showed the car's pace in the first half of the race when he went wheel-to-wheel with old Ferrari rival Lewis Hamilton and came off best. In the second half of the race, he said something felt off on the rear of the car, and it lost pace. Verstappen's previous best this season was 3rd in Canada in May, and the once dominant driver is now 98 points adrift of the championship leader Antonelli after 8 of the 22 rounds. Despite previously questioning his Formula One future, unhappy with the sport's new rules, and wanting a more competitive car, the Dutch driver sounded more upbeat than for a long time. "It's been a pretty long road to be here, and actually to sit here in the top 3 and have a real shot at it, that is, I think, already very positive," he said. Team boss Laurent Mekies was similarly excited. "I think the most satisfying element is the pace," the Frenchman told the Sky Sports television. "For the first time this season, we have the pace to be very, very close enough to win. We know we will need more because we know the competition will also continue to bring updates. But certainly, it's very impressive that we are now within the last tenth of what is needed to be the top step of that podium." Verstappen's French teammate, Isaac Hadjar, finished 6th. Toyota's reigning world champion, Sebastian Ogier, won the Acropolis Rally Greece on Sunday after Hyundai's Thierry Neuville suffered a double puncture on the penultimate stage. The 9-time world champion Ogier, with co-driver Vincent Landais, finished 58.3 seconds clear of Belgian Neuville, with Toyota's Takamoto Katsudo coming in a distant 3rd. Toyota's championship leader, Elfyn Evans, finished 7th on the road, but was later moved up to 5th after Jock McErlean and Adrian Formax were handed 1-minute penalties and demoted for not having seatbelts fully fastened while their cars were moving.
That's bad. And here's an interesting little tidbit. 9 African teams are in the second round and have stole the show. 9 of the 10 African teams at the World Cup advanced to the second round in a major breakthrough for the continent's football that could lead to bigger representation at future tournaments. The 90% success rate comes on the back of Morocco reaching the semifinals and Qatar 4 years ago, and offers hope for the future of the game on a continent that is soccer mad, but whose progress is often held back by administrative and logistical factors. It's a source of great pride that there are so many African teams qualified for the round of 32, said Democratic Republic of Congo coach Sebastien Desabre, after his side came from behind to win a thrilling 3-1 victory over Uzbekistan and secure their progress. For many years, the African continent has been working hard and making progress, said the Frenchman with some 15 years' experience of working with both clubs and national teams in Africa. Sure, there is still room for improvement, and we must ensure we try and remain humble, but we're happy to be part of this progression of African football, he said, after Saturday's first World Cup win for the Congolese. Only Tunisia failed to make it past the first round at the finals, with Cape Verde, Egypt, Ivory Coast, Morocco, and South Africa finishing runners-up in their respective groups, and Algeria, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Ghana, and Senegal all finishing among the 8 best third-place finishers. The global competitiveness and world-class quality of African football is being recognized and highlighted by the victories and qualification to the World Cup round of 32 by each of the 9 African national teams, said the Confederation of African Football President Patrice Motsepe in a statement on Sunday. The hard work and investment in young football development, coaching, professional football leagues, and football infrastructure in each of CIF's 54 member associations and in the CIS competitions is bearing fruit, he added. And bad news for people who went to Dallas. Unsuspecting fans arriving at the Dallas-Fort Worth area for the World Cup face a hidden health hazard on their walk to the futuristic home of the Dallas Cowboys in a concrete city built more for cars than pedestrians. While weather app tells visitors the temp is a manageable 90 degrees Fahrenheit, the pavement under their feet will likely be closer to a blistering 122 degrees Fahrenheit. That gap between the forecast and the furnace is the danger lurking on the walk to the stadium as fans trek from distant parking lots, train stations, and sun-baked plazas. Every step across asphalt, past metal security gates, and through unshaded fan zones means crossing an invisible heat trap the weather apps don't warn about. Concrete can actually absorb some of that heat, especially if you come across blacktop or that kind of colored surface that you're walking on, said Jennifer Dunn, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service.
Wow. And back to some opinions. In another voice, protection under the Olmstead must be affirmed. And this is by Harvey Rosenthal. In 1999, the Supreme Court affirmed a simple but transformative principle. People with disabilities have the right to live in their communities and not be unnecessarily segregated in institutions. Its landmark Olmstead versus LC decision established that unjustified institutionalization is not only poor policy, it's against the law. Today, that promise faces its most serious challenge. The Trump administration's Department of Justice recently issued a memorandum arguing that the ADA does not require states to provide services in the most integrated setting appropriate to the person's needs. While the memo does not eliminate the Olmstead mandate under law, it sends the message that this Department of Justice will not take action to protect those rights, threatening a chilling return to the policies of institutionalization. People with disabilities, their families, and advocates are justly alarmed and organizing to press Congress, state governments, and the public to protect and promote their rights. Here in New York, we are very grateful that Governor Hochul, the Commissioner of the Office of Mental Health and Office for People with Developmental Disabilities, and the Chief of Disability Officer issued statements reaffirming their commitment to the Olmstead decision. Here's one step they can take immediately to put that commitment into action. In 2002, the state's most integrated coordinating council was created to see that a yearly Olmstead plan is released that provides data on people with disabilities and identifies needed improvements to ensure that New Yorkers with disabilities are able to live successfully in their communities. Past governors have failed to produce such a plan, but I was very heartened when Hochul announced New York will issue an Olmsted Plan. The governor should see that an Olmsted Plan is released prior to the coming year's budget session. New York has been a national leader in advancing peer support, supportive housing, recovery-oriented services, and innovative community-based behavioral health programs. In releasing an Olmsted Plan, the state can send a very strong message across the nation that New York's commitment to the rights of people with disabilities to call their communities their home is stronger than ever.
How about a little emotional fitness?
I could use some.
All right. Every now and then, we may unknowingly allow someone into our lives who does not have the best intentions. They may put on a good act for a very long time, but once they have gotten what they want or see a way to gain advantage in the world, even if it means stepping on you, they will take it, and all you will see is a stack of bills left behind in the dust. If this has happened to you, please accept my sympathy. These kinds of trauma change lives, sometimes forever. However, there is always a way to create a normal future. After you've picked yourself up and recognized that you have the power to choose differently, the next time around, you can take steps to never make the same mistake. Many people are attracted to a certain type. If you find that a certain type of person always breaks your heart and leaves you broke, then you need to make a change. Sounds simple, but old habits are hard to put to rest. It's hard to change what you are attracted to, and many people who have been hurt again and again just give up on love. While not the best of choices, this is a safe option, and sometimes feeling protected is better than being in a relationship. You need to take care of yourself. If you have brought more than one person into your life who has hurt you, and you still see that type of person as attractive, you may want to question your own judgment. Caring friends may be the best place to turn to if your heart is broken and your head won't let go. They can hopefully talk you out of repeating the same pattern and may keep you entertained in the process. Wanting love in your life is normal, so is returning to something familiar, which is why so many people keep coming back to abusive relationships. And no, the devil you know is not better than the one you don't. They are both awful. What you may need to do is take a break from dating and relationships for a little while. See what other things you can invest your time in and find something that fills your heart. When you inadvertently draw the wrong kind of person into your life, it's better to end things sooner than later. Don't try to smooth over what happened with text, talks, or emails, but just let it go. Responding will only keep the unbalanced person around. Lastly, if they persist, please let friends or family know so those who care about you can make sure you are okay. And if you feel threatened, you should speak to law enforcement. You will live through this difficult time, but if you let things get out of hand, it can suck years out of your life.
Oh, my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, reading Heloise today, a lot of people are having trouble with this item. So we're going to give you some hints about prying open stuck nail polish lids.
Oh my goodness.
Dear Heloise, to open a bottle of nail polish that's stuck, place a cup of water in the microwave for 1 minute. Then remove the cup from the microwave and place the bottle inside the cup. Wait about a minute and remove. Presto, open the bottle.
Ooh.
Okay, then there's a petroleum jelly hack. Dear Heloise, in response to your asking if any readers had a special trick for opening nail polish bottles that get stuck, I just avoid this problem when I buy a new bottle. I put a layer of petroleum jelly on the threads. It's easy to open this way and it stays this way. That's from Tony M. via email. Tony, this is a good idea. Did you know that placing a thin layer of petroleum on the threads of a light bulb will also make it a little easier to move when the light burns out? Something to think about. Then there's always that potato trick, something like that. Yeah. Okay, here's another. This is nail polish remover. Dear Heloise, I enjoy reading your column daily regarding stuck-on nail polish lids. When I notice that a bottle cap feels difficult to open, I apply nail polish remover to a cotton ball and clean off the bottle top. Then I pour a little remover into the screw top, let it sit for a minute, then wipe it off with a cotton ball, and that prevents stuck lids. Wow, 3 different ways. If you've got a problem now, you're just not listening. Did you know that there are also tiny holes in T-shirts that are a problem? Dear Heloise, I'm wondering if anyone has an answer to this mystery. We wear T-shirts made of T-shirt material every day in our family. Yet, after a short while, they end up with tiny holes in the stomach area. Male or female, belt or no belt, it doesn't matter. These tiny holes suddenly appear. Any idea where they come from?
This is good. Let me hear it.
That's from Monica. Monica and Lita. The tiny holes are usually caused by a lower quality of fabric from rubbing against a hard surface, such as the button on a pair of jeans, or from standing against a hard stone surface, like maybe at the kitchen counter when you're making dinner. I don't know. I don't understand that comment. Generally speaking, though, don't stand next to a hard surface. Generally speaking, they are most often found around the belly button region because that sticks out on a lot of people.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have a smelly dishwasher?
I sometimes do.
Okay, let's talk about that. Dear Heloise, when I open my dishwasher, it has a nasty smell.
Not that bad.
Is there a good way to remove that? LW in Richmond, Virginia. LW, this is a sign that bacteria has started to build up in your dishwasher.
Kind of like your mouth.
The best way to get rid of the odor is to use a commercial dishwasher tablet designed to clean out the gunk that has built up in the dishwasher's drain and inner workings. You can also use your fingers to pull out that gunk, first.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, rather than try to dissolve it. You can probably pick up a box of these tablets or powder in your local grocery store.
Oh, good to know.
And then finally, we have to talk about scaly shower doors. There's a lot of gunk and stick today.
Oh, yeah.
Dear Heloise, the best remedy for scaly shower doors is prevention. For years, after every shower, I've sprayed my shower doors with this concoction, and they look like they did on the day they were installed.
Wow.
3 cups of water, 1/2 cup rubbing alcohol, 1/2 cup hydrogen peroxide, a tablespoon of dishwasher rinse aid, and a tablespoon of dishwashing liquid. So that's 3 cups water, 1/2 cup each of rubbing alcohol and hydrogen peroxide, a tablespoon of dishwasher rinse aid, that's hard to say, and 1 teaspoon of dishwashing liquid. There you go. That's Heloise for today.
I don't know about the hydrogen peroxide. Doesn't it just kind of like dissipate and be like nothing if you start adding it to other stuff? I mean, it kind of dies out after a while anyway.
I just don't know, but she says it works.
Okay, maybe it's just a
Maybe
fake.
maybe it makes a chemical change originally, and then that's done.
Maybe.
There you go.
Okay, how about this day in history? Are you interested?
I am.
All right, so on this day in 1805, the law that established the Michigan Territory took effect about 5 months after President Thomas Jefferson signed a congressional act dividing the Indiana Territory into 2 territories. Very good. 1905, a German physics journal published Albert Einstein's paper that included his theory on special relativity, the relationship between energy and matter, which is expressed in the equation
E equals MC squared.
Exactly. In 1921, President Warren G. Harding appointed former President William Howard Taft as Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. Taft is the only person to have served in both positions. Interesting. 1953, Chevrolet production line workers finished assembling the first Corvette at the automaker's plant in Flint, Michigan.
What a car.
In 1966, at the Third National Conference of the Commission on the Status of Women in Washington, D.C., 28 activists seeking equal rights founded the National Organization for Women, including author Betty Friedan, who became NOW's first president. In 1997, after 156 years of British rule in the former colony of Hong Kong, the United Kingdom gave back control to China. And finally, in 2019, President Donald Trump became the first current U.S. Commander-in-Chief to step into North Korea during a meeting in the demilitarized zone with its leader, Kim Jong-un.
Oh, and around and about in news and sports, Gresham Walsh broke the women's 50-meter freestyle record on Sunday at the Seti Kali International Trophy in Rome, lowering a mark that had already been beaten this month. The 23-year-old clocked 23.55 seconds, breaking the previous record, which was 23.59, set by fellow American Kate Douglas earlier this month at the U.S. Pro Swim Series event, and that was in Indianapolis. In May, Walsh betted her own 100 meters butterfly world record for the third time in a year, posting 54.33 seconds, and that was in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
And you have been listening to a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo News for the last day of June, June 30th. We read from the Buffalo News on weekdays at 9 a.m. and Sunday mornings, and we rebroadcast at 4 p.m. For more information, you can call 716-821-5555. Your readers today have been
Lori and
Lita.
thank
Thanks
you for listening. Have a great 4th of July, everyone.
That's right.
If you or people you know shop at any of the Dash's supermarkets, please save Dash's register tapes for radio reading. Our agency receives $2 for every $100 in Dash's register tapes. Radio reading has raised thousands of dollars so far. Anyone can drop off their Dash's tapes to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service at 1199 Harlem Road, Cheektowaga, between William and Clinton Streets. Or Dash's tapes can be mailed to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service at 1199 Harlem Road, Cheektowaga, New York, 14227. Any questions on Dash's tapes for radio reading? Call us at 716-821-5555, and thanks for caring.